Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to the Nasty Work Podcast. I'm Nia Senior with my amazing co-host, as always, Coach Slaw. So, from the last time we saw you, we have progressed so much in the WC. We're literally, the day that we're recording this, entering into the very last week of the regular season. And so what that means, we're getting closer and closer to the awards drop. There's been a lot of discourse all season about who's the MVP, who's the MIP, all of those things. But we don't really want to get into who deserves what award, but more so, what do these awards mean? What do these individual accolades actually matter? Do they matter more than championships? Do you need these individual accolades to be a Hall of Famer? All of the things. So to start it off, I feel like we have to talk about someone who's having the best season literally ever in W history, none other than Miss Bamonte, Asia Wilson. Okay.
Ooh,
That's really the tea. They're soft launching their relationship and, might as well just throw it in there. But Asia Wilson is literally having a season like we've never freaking seen before, which is crazy because she had an excellent, phenomenal season last year. So, but she's almost averaging, what is it, like 25, 12 and something. Like, it's just insane. It's just never heard of. She currently now holds the scoring record for the most points scored in a season. Crazy, insane. And she's 12 rebounds away from breaking Angel Reese's new set record this year for the most rebounds in a single W season. And she has so many freaking blocks this season that she's likely on par to win the Defensive Player of the Year. So we're talking about MVP, DPOY, the whole nine. So, Asia Wilson, sister, you're doing your thing. But we expect nothing less from you. How much these individual accolades matter for Asia's overall legendary status? Do you think they matter to her, or do the championships matter more? What do you think, Coach Slaw?
I think because I'll just say this 29 points, 12 rebounds, 4 blocks. That's the number of points, rebounds, and blocks Asia needs to break records in all three categories further this season, right?
Wow.
But that's something she could do in a single game based off of the stat lines she's put out game after game this season. Like you said, she's 27. She's averaging 27, 12 points and rebounds. I think she's averaging like 2 point something blocks. So there's good, there's great, there's top tier, and there's GOAT. She's already a GOAT, back to back championships. I think the championships matter more to Asia because that's what that's the goal every
Right.
season, right? Like, bring home that trophy for the city. That's the goal every time. I think in years past, it was nice to get DPOI. It was nice to get MVP. But with the level and the history around the disrespect she endured last season, especially with that fourth place voter, it was very clear from game one that it might not matter in a grand scheme of things to her, but this
Right.
year it matters. Like, this year, there will be no disrespect. This year, I'm leaving no crumbs. This year, I don't care what my teammates are going through, why they keep like disappearing from the mental side of the game. And I'm showing up every
I will.
single time. And of Bam's tweet, it's going to be unanimous. And yet, and still, you're hearing people criticize and compare and like, I love Nafisa Collier. I would have loved to play with a Nafisa Collier on my team. Oh, maybe she should be MVP because, you know, she's just as good as Asia this. No, she's not.
No.
No, she's not. And it's not because Nafisa Collier is not great. It's because Nafisa Collier is just not as good as Asia Wilson this season. That's just clear. Like, stop
When we
lying. Like, Asia has like a 97% PER. Asia has one of the highest usage rates in the league. She's the most efficient and still crushing the stat line. number for number against a Nafisa. Stop playing in her face. It's never good enough. Every time she does something, they just move the fucking line a little further out. Move the fucking line a little further out because they just can't believe it. They can't believe somebody so humble, so like down to earth,
Yes.
someone with good character and whose teammates love her, whose coach loves her, whose city, state, university love her, and is a black woman in America who does not give a fuck what y'all think, could possibly still be coming back for more and taking the whole thing. And she is. And I just want to remind folks like when you see people like Asia showing up to a game in a white tee and plain sweats, and I have to admit, like, I'm gonna get on my like little soapbox for black women right now.
Period.
In almost every industry in America, there's a black woman who wants to show up in her white tee and black sweats because y'all are being raggedy. And she has to be more than excellent every single day to get half the recognition.
Exactly. It's so exhausting. My
It's
God.
exhausting. Nothing puts like that picture in front of mine better than that visual of Asia showing up to these arenas in a plain white t-shirt, no makeup, just about business. We wish it could just be about business, but y'all make it about all this other stuff because of your insecurities. Leave her the fuck alone and let her get her accolades and let her get her trophies and let her go the fuck home. All of this other stuff, oh, like trying to find a way to marginalize her, it doesn't make any sense. It defies all common sense. It doesn't match the stats. It doesn't match anything y'all are talking about. She's done all of it. She's gotten a national championship in college, state championship in high school,
Yeah.
2 WNBA championships, MVP of the Paris Olympics and brought home gold.
Okay.
Dude, she's done it all. Y'all should be happy she's just not bored at this point and wants to quit.
Hello.
So, yeah, like, I don't to answer your question, I think that the championships matter more when you're solidifying legacy, and just because it's so hard to do, like, no matter
Right.
on what team she's on, she could do the individual thing because she's just that great and that dedicated to her craft, but the championships, I think, is, like, the bigger, greater goal.
I totally agree. I think that championships ultimately should hold the weight and do hold the weight over individual accolades because, as you said, last year, Asia got a fourth place vote. So we know how like biased these things can really be. And so sometimes they don't necessarily always reflect who is the best in their time. Like I think about so many great players that came before that don't have the individual accolades that they should, but they are, legends in their own right, Hall of Famers. But I think that we're in a time right now where not to race bait, but people are trying to put more weight on individual accolades and record breaking because so many of their fave, particularly their white favorites, do not have the championship to back it up. And so they're trying to make it seem like, well, if they have these individual accolades, then they're just as talented or just as good or just as goated or in that same level, in those same tiers. And so that's why they're putting so much weight on these individual accolades instead of so much on championship. Because like, hey, my fave doesn't have this. So what can I do or put emphasis on to set them apart to make them a part of this goated or this top tier or this legend status? And so the quickest, easiest way to do that is to say records, individual act.
What doesn't make sense about that to me is, like, you don't have to work that hard. You don't have to work that hard to give multiple people their flowers, right? Like, 2 things can be true. Asia
Exactly.
Wilson is the best player, I think, man or woman in the world in the game of basketball right now.
100%.
And Kaylin Clark just got the record assist accolade, 317 assists in a season, most in a single season WNBA history. And that's an incredible feat for any point guard in the W, but for a rookie, that's really, really impressive.
Yeah, amazing.
Amazing, fantastic. We can celebrate that. Why does it have to be either or? That's an internal question y'all have to ask yourselves. I don't know. They're completely different records and completely different accolades.
Exactly. And it just goes to show what Asia and Caitlin are doing are completely different things. Both are great, but what Asia is doing is something that we have never seen be
You never
done
seen it before.
before. And I just don't know when we're gonna see it again. Mind you, what Caitlin is doing is amazing, like you said. Amazing for a rookie, amazing for a player altogether. And what she's doing in terms of bringing eyes to the game, we haven't seen be done in that type of way before. So she
Yeah.
should definitely get her kudos for that. But when we're talking about basketball, we're talking about what's going on the court. When we talk about an MVP, I feel like we've been seeing a lot of conversation, or at least on my timeline, I've been seeing people say, well, Caitlin deserves to be MVP because she's impacted her team the most, or she brought the most eyes to the league. She's changed the trajectory of women's basketball as a whole. And I'm like, yes, these are true statements, but two things don't necessarily correlate. What does her bringing eyes to the game have to do with Kaylin Clark being the MVP this season? To me, nothing.
Caitlin Clark is the MVP of the Indiana Fever. She is not the MVP of the league. Like, it's about how you play. It's not about that. It's just never been about drawing a I understand wanting to celebrate Caitlyn. We should celebrate Caitlyn, but
Yes.
it's not the right way to do it. There's things to celebrate Caitlyn for. There's plenty of stuff to celebrate Caitlyn for. It's like we just live in a world where the information and the facts don't have to match, the reality of what people want. That's just where we're at with it. People
Yeah.
don't care about the factual side of things. They don't care about that. They care about, I need to get what I want. It matches my confirmation bias and my agenda. If it doesn't, it's wrong and y'all need to fix it because I'm entitled to the thing that I want being out in the universe, even though I really don't do anything
At all.
to, to determine whether or not Caitlyn or Asia or anybody gets MVP, Nafisa gets MVP. I don't have that. How they play reflects on that, and the journalists' votes affect that, and the players and coaches' opinions affect that. Like other things don't matter. But to your point about legacy, what's also true about both players, and I think it solidifies people's legacy in a different way as a player, is I look at how their style of play influences and changes the way the game is played around,
Mm.
right? The other day, Diana Taurasi said about Asia Wilson, y'all think about her as a post, I think of her as a guard because she's a threat on all three levels now, especially
Yeah.
with the improved three-point shooting. Her mid-range game is elite. Her ability to back up in the post, get out rebounds, create for others and pass out of the post. Her vision is incredible. So she's a threat from all angles offensively.
Yes.
And to your point, Nia, about like this league is getting more and more positionless. It's kind of crazy. Like she is one of like the gold stars as far as looking at how the league is moving in that direction. So teams she's unguardable. They're not sure what to do exactly. You can take away maybe one thing or two
Yep.
things, but she finds a way to
Every time.
impact winning. She finds a way to impact winning every time, and she's changing the way other players are thinking about how they play the game too. I'm almost certain there's probably conversations between her and Angel Reese about that as Angel
Yes.
continues to develop.
Mother and daughter, okay?
Okay. So then you look at Caitlyn, and similarly to like Steph Curry, is stretching the length of the floor,
Yeah.
shooting these logo threes consistently. That changes the way like teams have to defend and guard and think about what they're doing and how they approach their game. Her elite transition game and vision, like she makes you play the game with a constant present state of mind. You can't take, and people are always like, don't take plays off. You can't take micro plays off. Like you can't take anything when you're playing against Caitlin Clark because
At
as
all.
soon as the ball goes through the hoop, she's already thinking about how do I get the go ahead pass ahead to one of my other players. Like I don't want to have to set up an offense for what?
Exactly.
I want to take advantage of the defense when they're at their weakest, which is when they're in transition. And she has some lightning fast
Guards.
players with her on her team. Mitchell is incredible and been on a tear
Yeah.
and can play a very high level transition game basketball, is incredibly quick and hard to guard, can also shoot from outside. Lexi Hole has figured out the spots to be at to get good, backside passes and be effective from three. Aaliyah Boston's growth this year is amazing. Like from game one to the last game I saw against the Aces the other night, like in her confidence in her ability to just, pull it from three now, set up her post moves and not be reliant on a specific block, but being able to work both sides and being able to pass. And her vision has increased and her reads have been really good. So, like, everybody on that team now is in a place where they can just get the gears rolling
Yeah.
without having to, like, struggle to figure out their identity. The Indiana Fever has an identity now. Caitlin brought that identity to them. The coaches figured it out finally because the beginning of the season was rough. I
Yeah.
think the break really benefited them, like Cheryl Swoop said the other day. Now, like, you can't show up to a game against Caitlin Clark and not respect the transition vision or respect the logo 3. And so that puts a lot of pressure on your backcourt to guard. Really tough. And
It,
it's
it,
harder to score when you're using all that energy on the defensive end, like, from baseline to baseline.
that like the pace at which Indiana Fever is now playing at is very hectic for a lot of teams. And
Mhm,
they keep up a lot of times in the first half, but by the second half, teams they look so winded just playing against them. But I think to your point, something that we've known and mentioned about Caitlin's game or that, people that are just hoops head and just, really watch the game and not are just a common fan can appreciate and have always appreciated Caitlin's passing ability, but I think
mhm,
that now, like with what you're saying and the way that their offense is running and how she's basically not even setting up offense, most of their plays or their offenses in transition, it really just put her passing ability on the grand stage because, Kayla was known, I feel like, mostly for shooting logo threes, being a shooter. But now, as a point guard, we're getting to see her passing ability and how elite it is and how she can run the offense and
mhm,
how that has always been in her bag, but it's just super highlighted. It's like on the main stage now in a way that it wasn't, I don't feel like at Iowa. And so I think to your point, even about like how you're saying that the game is positionless or then have to look about how players have changed the game. I feel like Caitlin is changing what it means to be a point guard. Typically, a traditional point guard, when you think about it, their whole job is to set up the offense, run the plays, and get people into their positions. And she is doing that, but she's doing
mhm,
it from a basis of, like you said, before you even get to that point. It's such
mhm,
a far ahead sight that it's like, it's just the same but different. You know what I mean? Like it's an
mhm.
evolution of the game.
Yeah, the offense doesn't start when she comes across half court.
No.
The offense starts as soon as the ball touches her hand.
Yeah, it's like the
That's the
joke.
difference.
Everybody's like, "Oh, you have to guard her from the parking lot," but like, no, you
Mhm.
literally do.
You really do. It's not just because of her shooting, it's also because of her passing. She's doing with the get ahead passes what Sue Bird and, like, Larry Bird, LOL, did on steroids.
Yeah.
And she has elite shooters to pass it to. And, like, all that shit talk at the beginning of the season about they can't catch the ball, they figured it out. It takes time to gel and understand and evolve as a team for everybody. There's some teams still struggling with that even at this late stage, right? Like, I think the Aces, they have figured some things out how to execute defensively, and they look a lot more solid this stage in the season. I think offensively, it's not perfect, but it's getting there, like, and I think relying on their bench more
It's helpful.
is helpful. Who knew?
I mean, we've been talking about Becky for 2 seasons, but yeah, who knows?
Giving the teams different looks because you're preparing for the Aces, you know exactly how to prepare for Jackie, exactly how to prepare for Kelsey. They still might get off,
Right, fact.
but people have been studying their tendencies a long time, and so if there's a slump, you gotta give other people the opportunity to carry a run, to play more solid defense. And it's working.
Right.
Talking about growth again and, like, coming back from injuries, the Mystics, for the plot thickens in the W as
L
usual.
so, I just feel like This season has just been one that's just an interesting season overall, just because of the new fans and the dynamic of it coming into it. But I feel like overall, at different points in the season, all of the things that I don't want to say old fans, but people who have been watching the W or been watching women's basketball have said have come to fruition. And so the main thing that I feel like so many of us say is that anybody could lose on any given night. Every team in the W is a good team, no, regardless of what their record looks like. Even if you're thinking that you're looking at a team full of role players, these are still elite players. And so the Mythics moving up from literally having the worst record to begin this season, literally 12th team, the worst, y'all. They went on that whole streak where they didn't win a game for what, like 9 games?
Yeah.
To now making the playoffs, it's crazy. It just goes to show how talented these teams are. But that team evolve as the seasons go on. What you see in the beginning is not what you're going to see at the end. And
Yeah.
so predictions in the W are such a hard thing to do because of this, because of the elite play. Yeah. So the Mystics, honestly, I didn't foresee them getting that 8th seed at all. I would have damn near bet money on it that they would not be in the playoffs this year. I thought they were going to tank on purpose to try and, cure that Paige Becker's draft pick. But hey, they're now going to the playoffs. I hope that they play spoiler a little bit and give New York at least a run for their money because if you're gonna do all of this to fight to get in the playoffs, like at least make it worth it, honestly. Especially just because they have suffered from so many injuries this season. Just just not a easy road for them or an easy path at all. And so let's, at least end this bitch on a good note for some reason, whether that be just, well, New York, give them a run for their money, tire them out for the remainder of the postseason, raise some of their major player stock for the expansion draft, something. Just let it be amazing.
Yeah. One more note on the Mystics. I think people are kind of like, well, so they snuck into the eighth spot, and what does that actually mean? The rest of the Mystics games are at home, I believe.
Okay.
And I
There's what,
think,
three
and
more?
so they have the Dream, the Liberty, and the Fever.
Oop,
Okay. So they can beat the Dream. They showed that already. That
right, for
72
sure.
59 loss. The Dream took an L. The Mystics were moving the ball. Crazy. Check out the Twitter page. We got a nice little clip of that there. Sykes had a crazy game, 20 points. Just playing like she's at the Rucker. Like, just taking it to the cup and hose. Sorry. I'm gonna stop cussing. And then they've got the Liberty. Now everybody's like, well, that's a loss. Maybe. I mean, at that stage in the postseason, it like coaches are like, we're well ahead of the Mystics in the standings and well ahead of even like the mid tier at this point. The Liberty have just won so many games. I think they're like 31-6 or something crazy.
Yeah.
What if we rest Stewie? What if we rest Saab? Like, what if we just
Yeah.
and then Mystics sneak out
Get a win?
another W? Okay, now it's looking a little crazy.
Whoa.
Oh, spooky. And then we gotta play the Indiana Fever, which is a great matchup for both teams, but that's a home game event, home
Court advantage.
court advantage. You know, it could happen. If they win those 3 or even 2 of those 3, like, they're standing maybe 7th.
Especially the way Phoenix have been playing lately.
Phoenix,
Yeah.
just Cully is hurt, but
Whoa.
yeah. So, yeah, they could make something shake for real.
Yeah.
And so, like, shame on me because I know in an earlier episode, I definitely was like, well, they only can get better. I don't know what they will do if these players come back from injury, but they can only get better. They did though. So that's
They
not a
did.
terrible take, but like I was just kind of like playoffs. I don't know, but they keep balling like they've been balling, and it doesn't have to be cute. It doesn't have to be pretty. You don't need pretty wins. You just need to win.
Just wins. Especially when you're talking about an 8th seed, no one is expecting you to do anything on it. So, honestly, just have a blast, you know what I mean? I know that sounds
Oh,
very ridiculous, especially when you're talking about a professional league and you're talking about playoffs, but have some fun. You're the 8th seed. No one thought you would be here. But
and I
that
love
is
my
it's
Sky. I'm sorry, Sky.
that
Y'all
is so
feel like it
toxic.
can't still happen for y'all, but like this shit is just whack. Like Angels hurt with season ending injury.
Camilla's now
Let's
potentially out for tomorrow's
be
game.
out tomorrow. It's just whack, and I'm sorry, like, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, like, shout out Kennedy Carter,
Man, cooking.
young Hollywood goat, cooking up a storm. The
Yeah,
injuries have sucked. The injuries have really sucked, and but I know y'all are gonna come back better than ever next season, like, I already see it. Y'all believe in each other, you're gelling, you can pick up some pieces.
yes.
It
You
really
get your
makes them shake.
you get to a little practice facility. Cheeseman will be in year 2. It just things are gonna start to fall into place
Yeah.
for those guys next year. I just know that they're gonna be a force to be reckoned with for sure. But yeah, it was a little disheartening because they're just a fun team to watch, and I feel like
Mhm.
it would have been nice to see them in the playoffs this year. But hey,
And their
that's
fans are so incredible, like, I want the fans to get a playoff run, like, they've
yeah.
shown up in an incredible way, and they're so dedicated. They're live tweeting every damn game.
They have a
It's
spaces after every
yeah,
game.
yeah, like, it's awesome, so
Keep it up. It's just gonna continue to grow. But that's, a little preview look at what the playoff season is gonna look like, what the postseason gonna look like for the W this year. But before we get there, we have to give our own personal flowers to some players, before awards come out. That's kind of what this episode is about. What do the accolades mean? Do they matter? All of that. Like we said to start off the episode, our first set of bouquet flowers have to go to Asia Wilson for breaking the single season scoring record. Amazing. Just insane play, nasty work at its finest. And on her way to having the first 1,000 points W season. Have to clap it up for her. And like I said earlier, on her way to also having the most rebounds in the W season.
mhm.
And so that just goes into the next person who's also deserving of their flowers. And I don't want to be remiss because they're now suffering from injury. Their season was cut short, but of how amazing Angel Reese's rookie season was. Like, it was one to freaking watch from a young lady that we saw come in that had so many question marks around whether her game would translate and just doubt about what she was going to do in this league, come in and dominate how she did. Just
I
deserving
never
of
doubted her, I just wanted for the record to say she should go to I always was like, she should go straight to the league
you did.
and
Watch it.
kill it.
Check the past episode.
Fact check me.
Okay. And so she just deserves, dozens and dozens of flowers on top of now holding currently, even though Asia will most likely break it, the record for the most rebounds ever in a W season as a rookie. That's crazy. Not even just as a rookie, but anybody in the W, the most rebounds ever. And so that's just, it's just fucking amazing. That's all I can say. Like, flowers to you, Angel. Shout out to you, cousin.
I wanted to highlight too something about Angel that Sue Bird said on her podcast with Megan Rapinoe the other day. I know we've all been conditioned in the United States, if you watch professional sports and professional basketball in particular, to think that like the shot creator is the most elite, incredible type of player there is in the sport of basketball. Like we like salivate over the Kobe Bryants and the Maya Moores and the Carmelo Anthonys, like the people with the smooth, like dribble moves and step backs and up and unders and euros and unguardable moves and all this shit. Sue Bird, who, if you want to try and say Sue Bird doesn't know hoops, goodbye, was like, the craziest part about Angel Reese is she doesn't have to do all that shit to create her. This is how good she is just grabbing shit off the rim. Sorry, I said I was gonna stop cussing.
It's okay. It's not your
Snatching boards off the rim and getting them back up is a lot of her offense. Not all of it, but it's a lot of her offense. It's the majority
yeah.
of her shots. So just think when she starts creating more for herself, what it's gonna look like. This is the bottom. This is the worst she's ever gonna look. It's
Yep.
only gonna get better from here.
100%.
It's spooky.
It's cool key. Like,
It's spooky. Like people want to say, "Oh, she's raggedy. She'll never develop." That's not true. It just can't be true.
no,
It just can't be true. You're just a hater, bro.
simply.
Like, that is a skill. Getting to that ball first when it comes out the rim is something you can't teach other people sometimes.
No, I'm like, you can't teach effort. And Angel has that above so many people and just
And, like,
give her
college kinda does people a disservice sometimes because you have to play your role so heavy in college
right.
that, like, you don't necessarily get the opportunity some other players might get to do some of the more shot creation stuff. 'Cause college coaches are much more risk averse when it comes to that sort of thing, but I also wanna remind people that Angel was a guard until she hit her growth spurt, so she is coordinated enough to develop those ball handling skills, and she can use the right footwork, and she can put the ball on the rim that type of way, and it will happen more and more over time, and y'all will just have to shut up. So it's just like raw talent gets hated on the most because y'all can't do it.
Exactly.
You can't do
And
and it's raw, that's what it is. She's like a dull sword, and she's just gonna keep getting sharpened.
yeah. And similar to what you were saying earlier about just how great players evolve the game, you have to adjust to them. Angel is doing that in her own way. Like were just
Mhm.
saying, that we love to give credit to shot makers and those that can do all these amazing things. And that's what brings eyes to the game. And I literally had someone in my comments say that post players are boring. And I said, well, Angel Reese is one of the most electrifying players that we have to watch. And so she is making post play exciting. And so in her own way, her own vein, based on her effort, her ability to get offensive rebounds more than anybody else, is changing the idea and the perception of what a post player is and whether that's exciting to watch or not. And so in her own right, she is helping to evolve the game in that way. So flowers again. But last but not least, Caitlin Clark, another record breaker. We have to give flowers to all the record breakers. She's broken the record for the most amount of assists in a season. And she did it as a rookie. That shit is crazy. It's bananas. Her passing is elite. It's just gonna get better. She already had multiple triple doubles as a rookie, never been done before.
She gonna take some creatine, eat some protein shakes, get in that gym. I think Swole Caitlyn is not something y'all are ready for.
Well, Caitlin,
'Cause I want y'all to go back and look at Skylar, look at pictures of Kelsey Plum when they first entered the league, and
eyebrow.
then look at them now.
Hell yeah.
She continues to develop her body, it's just gonna make it harder and harder for her. Like, she has the skill set, she has a good hezzy, she has but, like, all this stuff where, like, they touch her, she falling down. And yes, I'm calling it that because that's what happened. Like, they're not trying to tackle her, she's much lighter than them. It's just that's a fact. That's not me being an asshole.
Yeah.
Y'all not ready for swole Caitlyn, I'm trying to tell you. If she gets stronger, especially because she's gonna need to do that with the FIBA circuit, especially because 'cause they're very physical over there, and she can get more and ones, finishing at the rim, that's nasty.
It's just
It's just gonna make her game even better, so I'm excited for that too. Mhm.
exactly. I'm excited for all the girlies. So that's our session of flowers. We done gave out plenty of roses, plenty of bouquets this week. Now we have to get into the mess of it just a little bit, y'all. And it's our Twitter trenches segment.
Really?
So past week, it wasn't on Twitter, but of course it came to Twitter because that's where all the women's basketball discourse pretty much happened. Cathy Engelbert was on an interview. She was basically doing an interview. And the person, the journalist, fielded her an excellent question and was asking her about fans and their misogyny, their racism, and all of that, and what place does that have in the W? And Kathy proceeded to give a terrible answer and talk about how rivalries between she gave Angel and Caitlyn helped to bring revenue, drive eyes to the game, but ultimately was talking about the money that it makes and that rivalries are necessary for sports. That's just what's necessary. And so basically, she didn't answer the man's question. He rephrased it and tried to get her to answer it. And she still went on a tangent talking about the capital benefits and gains that rivalries give and didn't discourage fans from wanting to be racist or having quote unquote race wars. And so it was very disgusting. And so Twitter went into an uproar about it, including so many of the players talking about how Kathy's answer was just simply insufficient. You can go and see so many clips. Brianna Stewart literally said an oppressor was talking about Kathy's answer. He didn't like it. Then the WN went ahead and released their own statements, also acknowledging that Kathy's statement wasn't sufficient and doesn't reflect the values of what the league should hold on to. And so that kind of just people was talking back and forth about it on Twitter. But to me, there really wasn't much to talk about. Kathy didn't answer the question. Or she was on that bullshit,
Mhm.
and she was like, "Racism is bringing me money." Tracy.
Yeah. I'm not gonna pretend like I expected a lot here. I don't really have a high expectation for leaders in corporate America to condemn racism. I like I think they should.
Yes.
I think they should condemn racism, misogyny, bias of all kinds. And I think they should come at it with a lens that it is bad for business and not a revenue driver we want. I do think that that's a normative statement, the case across sectors. I know it's not though. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I expected a whole lot of Kathy Engelbert. Like, it's
Um,
not just today, y'all. Like, people have been racist and misogynistic and homophobic and all other layers of bias toward WNBA players since the league's inception. This is not
right,
new. So, like, yeah, I was not surprised at all. I'm like disappointed a little bit, but I'm not surprised at
right.
all when she gets a, in my opinion, a pretty docile question and just fumbles. Like that's like it's not that hard to say like, look, we welcome fans of all races, socioeconomic statuses to come and enjoy our league, genders, what have you. We might not be able to control it the best all the time, but we don't want our players affected by racism, misogyny in their social media posts. We don't want bias to be the controlling driver of our revenue. Like we condemn it in all its forms. And we want to continue to learn and grow about how we can better protect players and better set a standard for what a WNBA community member, what that means. And if you're coming
Yeah.
into these arenas, how you should act, right? I think that's a pretty simple thing to say, but she was scared. Let's be 100. Like, she was scared to say that. Because if
Yeah.
she condemned all of it, then all the Twitter trolls and everybody else is going to come and say Kathy Engelbert hates Caitlin Clark and hates white fans and hates male fans and doesn't want them in the league. The media and the social media engagement that would come after that and paint her as the villain towards the great white hope for those people who are sick in the head and still think that that matters,
Yes.
like, who really need that. Because let's be clear, like, those people that are calling Angel the N-word consistently and Kennedy Carter the N-word consistently and asking for Diamond DeShio's tumor to come back,
My God. Yeah.
those people need Caitlyn to be the great white hope. Caitlyn don't even care about that. Caitlyn's trying to hoop. Caitlyn doesn't wanna be a racist, like, well, that's crazy, right? Like, that is that's nuts. They need that. They need to hold on to something because the world around them is much more open and accepting than they want to admit. And so if they can make that person the face of everything that like just confirms all of their internal like hate and frustration, it works for them. They love that. And not only that, it's a money driver for their broke asses too, because they be on these fucking Twitter accounts and TikTok trying to make a killing. It's a hustle out here. And they're like, okay, like the most engagement comes from people arguing. What do could people argue about the most in America? Racism.
Yep.
So how do I make this shit a little racist so I can drive my engagement? That's their goal. All Kathy had to say is like, we're not aligned with that. And she didn't do it.
and she did.
So
And
maybe they
so,
are aligned with it. I don't know. But she did apologize later.
wow, thanks, I guess, for the apology, Kathy. However, that took us to the second part of our Twitter trenches, which is goes right on into it. Caitlin Clark's fans were in an uproar because Caitlin Clark recently liked Taylor Swift's tweet encouraging those to go out and vote, specifically go out and vote for Kamala Harris. And so Caitlin's fans, who not all of them, but some of them, as Coach Slaw just mentioned, need her to be the great white hope, thrive on racism, without biases, and literally that's how they make a living. We're upset that their great white hope went and aligned herself with someone with a liberal ideal or just the idea that they need to get out and vote for someone that's not Donald Trump. And so I feel like if that was Kathy's fear that it would drive Caitlin fans away from the league or to upset them, she was probably right because this just goes to show
Wrong. Like,
you're not wrong, sister. You're wrong. You're wrong because you didn't do what you were supposed to do, but you're
right.
not wrong on the thought process that these people were going to do.
Melt down. These people crash out something serious.
Okay,
I looked up some of the stuff. Don't bring politics into your sports. It is bad for your brand. I want to remind people she liked somebody else's post. She didn't endorse a candidate. The other night when a reporter asked Caitlyn about the election, she's like, I'm not gonna tell you who I'm voting for, take a position whatsoever, but I will continuously encourage people to exercise their constitutional right to vote. Duh. The end. They crashed out. They
right.
said, "Don't bring politics into into sports like this. Why would you do this? It's gonna kill your brand. Not here for these liberal black bitches." That's what one another two. I'm reading these. This is not. I'm not making. Not here for this liberal black bitch. That's what somebody. I'll never watch you again. It takes that much. Was it about basketball then? Because y'all been telling us it's about basketball, and it's not about race. Y'all have been telling the whole season that these fans don't care about her race. It's not about her race. It's not about Angel's race. You've been telling us that the whole season. It's not about their politics. You've been telling us about that the whole season. You've been saying that shit. Like we just made it up. It is not about race. How come Angel's an N word under her account on the
Yeah,
comment? And that same person is tweeting, "Why is Caitlyn liking this this post about this black bitch?"
right. Which one is it?
Which
Wait,
one is it? 'Cause y'all are flip-flopping. Like, it's okay, but just stand on business. If you're a racist, stand on it, you
and
know?
so
And, like but, like, "Oh, I'm not watching anymore." Okay.
well done.
Okay, like, save everybody else some time. Can you just not tweet anymore also, though?
Please, especially if you're
Can
not
you not
watching.
post in the Instagram comments also? Like, I need you 100% on board with that.
I would like y'all to clock out immediately.
It's ridiculous. Full-time race baiter on the internet is crazy work.
Especially
Full-time?
this economy, man, you need to get you a side job.
I've never blocked this many people, and I don't even say that much. We could put out more episodes, maybe we should, but I don't say that much for y'all to be mad at me. I don't have an engagement and following yet for y'all to be mad at me.
Right.
Crazy work. Nasty work.
And so this has been another episode of the Nasty Work Podcast. You guys already know what to do. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe, following us on all our social medias. We tweet often, especially during game at the Nasty Work Pod. And we've been doing a lot better on our TikTok, y'all. Follow us on TikTok. And we have been trying to predict who's going to win what games. We're going to start that back up. And yeah, so thanks for tuning in. I'm Mia Senior, my amazing co-host as always, Coach Fun, and we'll see you in the next one. Soodles!
Peace.